fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Ultraman Arc Soulless and Luna Armor set from the Ultra Action figure line from Bandai. So this is kind of nice. It gives you everything you need for at least the beginning part of Ultraman Arc, all here in one convenient package. You have Ultraman Arc himself, and then you have the Luna and Soulless Armor, and you can kind of clip them on, as you can see, so you can form all three modes. You also get the Arc Eye Sword, which is a nice accessory, so kind of a nice set here. Kind of gives you everything you need all in one set instead of doing them as separate figures, which I think is kind of cool. So as you can see here, everything included. Spin it around to the back. It shows you how to disassemble. The armors have this kind of like, you know, sun and moon configuration, and then they break apart and clip onto the figure. So of course we'll take a look at all of that. But yeah, should be pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead, get everything out of the box here, and we'll take a closer look. Alright, so here is Ultraman Arc with the Soulless and Luna armor. Now the Soulless armor also has these two little hand pieces, and we'll get into that. But they don't really have a way to clip on to like this little armored, you know, put together configuration. So you just kind of have to keep a hold of them off to the side. But let's move all the armors out of the way, and we will take a look at the Arc figure first. I actually think it's pretty good. I mean, pretty standard here for an Ultra Action figure. Not a lot of paint here on the back, but there is a decent amount of this black. Unless that's a completely different plastic, and I honestly can't tell, but either way, it looks really good. I think they did a nice job with the eye sword. It's, you know, fairly basic, just molded out of this blue plastic, but does have a decent amount of silver paint here on the front. No paint on the back, but I feel like that's to be expected. Honestly, getting any paint at all, I think, is really nice. So, yeah, it's okay. Now, unfortunately, they're still doing these hands with the two sets of fingers. I really wish that they would just switch over to just like normal grasping hands. Just leave them like that. I really don't care about losing the posability. Or at the very best, give me a set of gripping hands and then a set of posing hands and let me be able to swap them in and out. But you're going to have to go to Chodo for something like that. In any case, you know, he grasps the sword fairly decently. I mean, sometimes he has difficulty with these hands grasping accessories, but this one actually works pretty well. I'm going to put this off to the side for the moment. And yeah, just take a look. I think the head looks good. Standard articulation, so you have movement side to side. A little bit, mostly down, but a little bit of looking back. You can see it kind of gets locked. Like when I go down like that, it kind of gets locked. And then I have to kind of swivel it to the side to get it to come back. So I don't know what that's about. For whatever reason, it seems to get a little locked there. But can still move around, even have a little bit of side-to-side tilt. You have a hinge and a rotation in the shoulder. You have a bicep swivel, 90 degrees, maybe slightly over 90 degrees there in the elbow. Wrist swivel, and then like I talked about, those two sets of fingers. Nothing in the waist. Kick fairly decently forward, fairly decently out to the side. Nothing in the thigh. Over 90 degrees there in the knee, and then you have a ball joint in the ankle. So again, very standard for the Ultra Action figure line. I would say that just about every one of these has the exact same posability, but it's not bad. And it's a good looking figure. I think it's pretty nice, pretty nicely detailed, nicely painted. Like I said, the back definitely doesn't have any paint, but again, that's standard. So yeah, not too bad. Let's start with the Soulless Armor. So we're going to have to bring in these hand pieces as well. And basically what you're going to do is just kind of disassemble this a little bit. So this little piece here is going to unpeg like this. And then you can unpeg this section here. And then these sections here will also unpeg. They're just on these little pegs right here. And they just have little peg holes here on the back. And then these are going to be shoulder pads. So you can see that they have little ball joints there. So you have a decent range of motion there. And then this piece that we pulled off of the front is now going to connect on the back as a high collar piece. So we will get that assembled there, and then you just slide it on the back, and then peg on the front piece. Pretty simply. There we go. So you are most of the way done at this point. So you're going to take these hand pieces, and on their own, they don't really stay on, I'll be honest. They're kind of terrible in that regard, and I was really kind of upset about it. But there's a way to make them work. So, actually, this one, for whatever reason, this one kind of grasps on here and will stay. But this one, not so much. Well, actually, all right. So if you can really get the hands open and form-fitted like that, They stay on better than I was originally having them stay on. But the nice thing is you can just take these clip onto the forearms, and because they have this piece that extends over, even if they're not staying on that well, that piece will kind of, you know, hold them on there. And so that works really well. But if you open up the hands and really get them to form fit, then it will really grasp it a little bit better. So they're not the best, but they're okay. But even if you're having trouble with them, you can use the forearm pieces to hold them in place. But yeah, everything just kind of clips on like that. And now we have Ultraman Arc in the Soulless Armor. I think it looks good. I think it's pretty nicely done. You get a decent amount of paint. Now, unfortunately, that gold does immediately stop at the halfway point because there's no paint on the back. But from the front, I think it looks good. Pretty solid. Not falling off, which I appreciate. You can still hold the sword if you like. Now, you have to kind of, because the hands are form-fitted into that, you will have to kind of pull it out, and it's a little difficult to do. But you'll have to kind of get the hand back out of there. And maybe I can do it with just the one. And that way he can grasp the sword, but it is doable. There we go. It's not, well, okay. He doesn't want to help me out here. All right, I'm going to have to get the other set of fingers out of here. Come on. There we go. He's just really not cooperating. I promise you can do it. It's hard to do with this outer glove piece on, because the hands naturally want to form back into there. But see how they kind of they kind of keep kicking back in. And it's also kind of the placement of the thumb of the outer glove. There we go. Alright, well, whatever. He doesn't need the sword. We're just going to leave him without the sword. So, you can do it. It's obviously harder to do because these gloves make it a little bit harder, but it can be done technically. But yeah, otherwise, I think the armor looks good. I really do. I think it snaps on pretty well. It stays on. The paint applications are good. I wish that gold continued onto the back, but I don't expect it. But yeah, overall, I think this works pretty well. Okay, moving on now to the Luna armor. As you would expect, it disassembles very similarly to the Soulless armor. You're going to unpeg this section here. These pieces are going to unpeg, and again, they just had little peg holes there, and they just attach to these little pegs here. And then this piece will unpeg from the back, and then you are going to take this and pop it on very similarly. Now, for whatever reason, this one does not connect as well as the Soulless armor did, and I don't really know why that is. Like, it'll peg on, but you can see it doesn't really go all the way in. Like, you can see there's that little gap there, and I don't really, like, you can see it's hitting the body there. So, unfortunately, I can't push this in any tighter. It did on that side a little bit, but yeah, so I don't want to break those off. But anyway, it stays on decently, but just be aware that unfortunately it doesn't connect on as tight as you would like. These pieces peg into the back here. You can see these two pegs back here. So this is going to peg on like this, and this is going to peg on like this. And it's kind of impossible to put them in backwards because it's angled, so it works well. But yeah, so those hang off the back, almost kind of like a little cape. And then this is just supposed to go into his hand and like rest against like that. Like, you can, if you do this, it'll kind of work. But unfortunately, because of the way those hands are, if you try to close it up, then it's like at the wrong angle, and if you try to move it back, it's going to open up the hands again. So he'll kind of hold it. It's not terrible, but it can fall right out. So you kind of have to get the pose right and hope gravity's on your side. So that's a bit of a bummer. Again, if they just had normal grasping hands, I feel like you wouldn't run into that problem. But because he doesn't have any weird hands, he's going to be able to grasp the sword a lot easier. So if you want him to use the sword, it's not that big a deal. And then again, you have the ball joints for the shoulder pads, but I feel like they sit pretty nicely. This one, again, I think it's fine. You have some nice metallic blue here. It does kind of blend into the normal blue and get lost a little bit, but there is some paint there. Again, nothing on the back. It doesn't carry over. But yeah, he looks pretty cool. I think the Soulless Armor pops a little bit more. I don't think... There's nothing wrong with this one, but I just think the Soulless Armor is just kind of brighter. And it's kind of funny. You would think that this would look better because the blue is kind of a starker contrast to his normal color scheme, with the armor for the Soulless Armor being kind of orange and him being red. But I don't know. I just think maybe it looks a little better or just pops a little more. Again, nothing wrong with this, but I just feel like, I don't know, I don't enjoy this one as much. I do like these things on the back, though. Kind of has like cell wings from DBZ, which is kind of neat. And like I said, because he doesn't have anything going on with the hands, he should be able to grasp this a lot easier, as you can see. And then he's got this like Taja Dole spinner here on the side of the arm. And that's, you know, okay. But you have to kind of put that at the right angle. Like, he'll hold it, and if you just want to pose it like this, it'll work. But if you try to, like, move it around, that thing will come loose. I wish that there was just, like, a tiny little peg hole on the forearm that you could peg that onto, and then it would be really nice and secure, but I guess they didn't want to put any peg holes on the forearms. But, yeah, I mean, overall, it's not a bad look. Ultimately, I think this is a pretty cool set. I think the armors work. You know, they attach pretty nicely. I was honestly surprised. I kind of anticipated them not really staying on all that well, but they actually do attach to the figure and stay on pretty nicely. Like I said, for whatever reason, the chest plate on the Luna armor doesn't seem to go on all the way, but it goes on enough that it'll stay on. You have this little weapon here that, again, fits into the hand okay, but you have to pose it just right or else it'll probably just fall out. But I like these little, you know, like display options for putting the armor together on their own. I think that's kind of neat. I do wish that the hands had some way to incorporate. You can kind of drop them inside here and they'll stay. That kind of works. I also wish that these came with like little plastic clear display stands, because if you could, like, you know, hook something onto the back and then just like a little clear base with a stand and then kind of display these on the side like this, I think that could make for a really cool display with this figure. Not really necessary, just, you know, if I'm looking for ways to kind of make the set even better. But yeah, the armors actually work pretty well. You know, any other complaints I have about this are just what I say about all Ultra action figures. I don't love those hands, you know, the two sets of fingers. I feel like they've been doing that kind of stuff for 10 years, and there have been definitely enhancements. You know, just make it so I can switch out the hands, give me a set of grasping hands, give me a set of like beam posing hands, and that would be perfectly fine, or closed fists, something like that. Again, you're going to have to look at Chodo for something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's really my only complaint. Obviously, I would love a waist swivel. I'd love a thigh swivel. But again, Ultra action figures have never had that. No point in complaining about it now. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Ultra action figure line, I think this is a really nice set. I think the Arc figure looks good. I think the armors work pretty well. Transforming them back and forth is super simple. Clipping them onto the figure is simple. And they stay attached pretty well and looks good in both modes. So definitely recommend this one if you're a fan of the Ultra action figure. I don't know what like Chodo is going to do for these. I would assume they'll be just molded separate figures. I wouldn't imagine it'll be armor you can take on and off. So if you're looking for something more like that, then maybe Chodo's the way to go. But yeah, I think this is a fun little set. I was actually really pleasantly surprised. I think the eye sword looks good. He holds onto the eye sword pretty well, which I was surprised about. Yeah, I think this is a really fun little set. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.